CNBC TV18 presents Transforming a Billion Lives, Season 2, presented by AWS.
Hello and welcome to CNBC TV18 presents Transforming a Billion Lives, Season 2, presented by AWS. I'm Bhattacharya and I'm the moderator of what promises to be a very riveting conversation. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll explore the theme, Transforming Education, Impacting Lives, Strategies for Educators, Institutions and Change Makers. Across India, technology is revolutionizing education, making it far more inclusive, accessible and effective. From AI-driven platforms to immersive classrooms, digital innovation is bridging gaps in location, infrastructure and opportunity. EdTech today is no longer just a buzzword. It is now central to how students learn, teachers teach, and institutions evolve. To unpack this revolution, we're joined by three visionary leaders. So very warm welcome to Pankaj Gupta, Country Leader, Public Sector, AWS, Apurva Desai, Head of Communication and Marketing, Rocket Learning, and Jairaj Bhattacharya, co-founder and CEO at ConveGenius. Thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us. Pankaj, let me kickstart the conversation with you. We're talking at a time when there is this beautiful intersection of traditional education meeting the digital revolution. If you look at some data in India, about half our population is under the age of 25. That's the kind of potential education can have in impacting lives, literally. But first, talk to me about this transformation that is happening where you have the traditional meeting the digital in terms of the real impact on ground.
Today's topic which is very close to my heart, transforming education and impacting lives. And it relates to the mission of my team, and I want to talk about it. We want to make a positive impact to the life of every citizen of India, that is 1.4 billion people. It could be a student, it could be a patient, it could be a farmer, or it could be a common man. That's the first part. The second part is to help India achieve its global potential as a digital nation that strives to be the technology sandbox of the world for social good. I know this is a little long mission statement, but let me help you demystify it. If you see, India has a history of building some of the world's largest population scale platforms, whether it is Aadhaar, UPI, GSTN, DigiLocker, DigiYatra. And if you see, all these platforms are proven for India's scale, complexity, and diversity. India talks about make in India, make for the world. And India is now taking the same approach of these population scale platforms to education as well, which is digital public infrastructure. And now aligning to the new education policy 2020 on the same lines. A lot of large platforms, whether it is Skill India Digital Hub or Swayam, which is a massive open learning platform. And now this platform, what is really doing it is bridging the divide between the urban and rural India. A lot of students from the class 9 onwards, they can take online trainings, courses, certifications, and by the way, these courses and trainings are built by some of the top professors from the top institutes in the country and available completely free of cost. Taking the same approach forward, if you see our edtechs, they're also really breaking the barriers of a typical traditional classroom-based learning with a more open, collaborative and personalized learning. Same example, if you see ConveGenius, they are touching the life of more than 150 million K-12 students. In a country like India, where we have 300 million children or students in the age of 6 to 23 years, with 1.5 million schools and 100,000 higher education institutes. Now taking it a step forward, the impact of AI on the education. With me, if you want to imagine a digital classroom where every student can choose their place of learning, their mode of learning, the language that they want to learn, maybe their mother tongue. So basically what it is really doing is it is enabling a personalized adaptive learning experience with any time, anywhere, any content device. That's the kind of impact we're talking about.
Just help me understand, just from the perspective of these AI forward, learning platforms, mobile apps, how are they actually helping to bring about this revolution of technology or the intersection of technology on the ground?
Cloud computing and technology like AI are really democratizing the access of quality education, making it more inclusive, affordable, and equitable. So that's the kind of impact, and we just spoke about a scenario. Now taking it a step forward. Now AI does not depend upon kind of anything like it can really enable something like a 1:1 mentoring. And if you see today with AI, things can become very fast and they can be at any scale, at India scale. We're talking about 1.4 billion scale. That means this AI-based teacher is round the clock available. And that means if now as a student, I'm struggling on a particular subject, I need answers to my questions. AI every time will give me a different answer, maybe a straightforward analogy, and will be able to try to relate to my problem in a very empathetic manner. So that's the impact of technology like AI on our daily lives.
Apurva, let me get you in the conversation. You've had multiple partnerships with the government at the Anganwadi level to change the Anganwadi system, which many unable to understand, but it's actually had a huge impact in terms of millions of children and their lives and future, in fact, being changed. First, just talk to me about that partnership and how it's transforming lives at that grassroots level.
Rocket Learning is an edtech nonprofit that works at the intersection of policy, community, and technology. The way we see scale is exactly what you said, right? Through partnerships and private-public intersections, wherein governments who are able to provide scale and the infrastructure to be able to develop universal early childhood education is something that we are sort of rooting for and working with the government for. So what we do is work with the largest childcare network run by frontline workers and women, unparalleled in the world, which is the Anganwadi system. We have about 14 lakh frontline workers engaged very actively in close proximity with the community of children from low-income communities that we aim to serve. And these Anganwadi workers are hungry to be able to sort of upscale, but also provide education and early stimulation that's so important in the age group of 0 to 6. Here I'm talking about 85% of brain development that is achieved. And so the plasticity and elasticity, the neural connections that a child is supposed to be able to build to become school ready, to then be able to go to formal education in class 1, which starts at 6, and grade 3, which is when FLN begins and therefore allows for livelihood and employability. All of those start right at the age of even before school and formal education starts, right? And so that's why government partnerships are so important for us. Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi is one of the first programs that was introduced back in 2023, which looks at not just allowing for an infrastructure that's conducive, but ensuring that Anganwadi workers are trained and sensitized and really understand development domains that need to be matched and sort of built as part of it. And as their strategic partners, we sort of work with them to be able to really build cognizance of why this awareness is required. We call it our AIM model. It's basically focused on building awareness because caregivers continue to be the highest invested in their child's education, whether that's Anganwadi workers whom we see as educators or parents for that matter. Information, right? Because while about 75% of parents from low-income communities have access to smartphones and WhatsApp, they may not sometimes be aware of the right sources to be able to get the information, and therefore to have pedagogically aligned child and age-appropriate content is something that we provide through WhatsApp, a platform that's already very accessible and probably in the hands of every sort of community member that we interact with. And then there comes motivation, because the parents that we are working with are also, and Anganwadi workers for that matter, require that additional push, that additional motivation that comes from peer networking. And so that's how we're working with government, and that partnership is sort of evolving for us to be able to really reach the last mile that you were referring to in one of your previous questions.
I just want to come back to Pankaj for this social and digital divide that we were talking about earlier, right? Talk to me about initiatives or learnings to ensure that we can do far more to bridge this digital and social divide.
I want to envision India where every citizen of our country is able to access basic services, whether it is education, healthcare, sanitation, irrespective of their social economic status or their geographic location. Now, the moment I talk about that, I want to give you an example of an entity called Common Service Centers. I'm not sure if you've heard about them. It is a scheme under Ministry of Electronics and IT, Common Service Centers. What they really do is, we have more than 550,000 access points that are available at the gram level or the panchayat level. What they do is, any villager who does not have access to a smartphone, a computer, or even a mobile, they can go to those access points or these CSC centers, which are run by village level entrepreneurs, whether it is getting your Aadhaar card, birth certificate, death certificate, or even applying for some educational course. So we worked with CSC to deploy a scheme called PMG Disha, Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan. Under the scheme, government had a mission to reach out to 6.5 million people in the country. It is a scheme about deploying digital literacy in the country. Now, every household, if there is one person who is digital literate, with that, what will happen is they'll be able to engage with the government system in a much deeper manner.
Yeah.
So that's the power of, in terms of making India inclusive, equitable and accessible.
Jairaj, let me come to you now. ConveGenius from day one, from the very start, has been very focused on this idea of inclusion, right? So talk to me about some learning, some takeaway, especially for first-time learners, or even larger platforms that you would have seen in your own journey that can be a starting point for them as well.
ConveGenius has believed that there are two different rides that India was taking in the last 5 to 6 years. One was the device penetration. We believed when we started that every household will have an access to at least a smartphone device, if not more, right? The second was internet. Internet has to be everywhere, right? So these are two highways that we saw could potentially get us to population scale inclusivity and democratization, right? So the power to teach and learn is on a mobile device. Now really unlocking that power is what we wanted to focus on. And over the period of last 5 to 6 years, some of the events, the larger events have actually helped us doing this. COVID was one. During COVID, we saw that adoption of EdTech and the belief that EdTech can work kind of took to the next level.
Correct.
In fact, our solution, our WhatsApp-based solution, was actually the largest consumer of WhatsApp's business API in the world.
Yeah.
After COVID was number 2 at that time, because the sense of using AI actually came in during COVID when schools got shut.
Correct.
But once you had that realization, it kind of went forward and it only grew, right? And use of technology inside the school with teachers, with parents, in the community actually naturally transcended and became a part of life and part of the systemic change. But what we believe is that now that we have the highway, now we have the infrastructure, how do we actually drive that to drive learning outcomes impact, to get actual impact happening, education to employability, to get the relevant jobs, to drive life skills, right? We have the visibility of real-time feedback, as Pankaj was talking about. You can wake up in the night and ask a stupid question to your AI chatbot and no one's going to judge, right? So you're really sparking curiosity. And the power of that is when you spark curiosity in one child, you change a family. And if you do that for 100 million children, you change the country.
We're at the intersection of a very promising conversation. We will come back and talk a little more about how we can continue to transform lives with the impact of education right through the grassroots level. So stay with us.
CNBC TV 18 presents Transforming a Billion Lives, Season 2, presented by AWS. CNBC TV 18 presents Transforming a Billion Lives, Season 2, presented by AWS.
Welcome back to CNBC TV 18 presents Transforming a Billion Lives, Season 2, presented by AWS, where I'm in conversation with Pankaj Gupta, Country Leader, Public Sector, AWS, Apurva Desai, Head of Communication and Marketing at Rocket Learning, and Jairaj Bhattacharya, Co-founder and CEO at ConveGenius. So Apurva, let me come to you. One of the roadblocks has been at a very, very younger age, which is the age group of 3 to 6, which many have pointed out that they actually can have a fundamental impact if the approach to learning at that age is absolutely correct. Talk to me about the kind of divide that we see and the kind of approaches that are now changing towards learning, especially in that age group.
I think early childhood education, which basically covers the 3 to 6, but also sort of extends to much earlier, because education traditionally has been seen as something that starts with formal schooling, as opposed to really sort of looking at home-based caregiving sort of patterns and learning that really happens, right? And that's where we earlier spoke of the role of caregivers and how that needs to be nurtured and sort of built on top of. Anganwadi network, by that default and extension, sort of focus on children who especially come from underserved communities. And so these children who otherwise would lose out on the potential to be able to be school ready and therefore then develop learning outcomes and domains that sort of allow for livelihood, etc., get curtailed. And so it's extremely important that we continue to focus not just on technology, which allows us to sort of cross boundaries and reach the last mile communities, but also find affordable, accessible ways to do it, right? Developing a new app is just going to include and sort of invite fatigue. But what if you actually bring a proposition like this to parents in the form of a platform and technology that's already present in their hands? What if you actually start to listen to the community and listen to what their challenges are and opportunities are and how they want to teach and learn, right? And that's something that Rocket Learning has been very sort of centrally focused on, because we understand that proximate experience of the caregivers and education and pedagogy that sort of is age appropriate at that level is critical in sort of understanding what human-centric design really looks like. And I think community engagement, because tech alone is not going to be able to help you sort of cross seas, right? Without the community's awareness and knowledge about how do you really sort of build on top of it. I think it also comes down to evidence building, and evidence building not just for the sake of showcase, but really being able to do it through pilot, right? And that's how we've also been able to scale across 4 million children, about 1.4 million parents who now are a part of our ecosystem, across training 270K Anganwadi workers as well. So scale is through trust and championing and co-owning certain systems with the government, while continuing to be at the service of the communities who know best what they need.
Jairaj, let me also bring you in the conversation. You've worked with startups as well as, you know, more established institutions. What would your advice be, or your learnings be, for at least traditional institutions to partake more in this technological evolution that is taking place, for them to make this evolution far more easier?
Startups, of course, adopt faster.
Correct.
But what we have kind of realized is that if it's a part of your natural cycle, it's part of your natural system, like we got governments to adopt technology by creating digital public infrastructure in the format which really works. So we got conversational AI to work as DPGs, right? So the way to do it is become part of the system, integrate inside the system, right? Teachers are not going to change their way of teaching. We have to blend technology, integrate technology as part of the teaching learning experience. And that's how we started looking at what is technology going to add value to the natural life, to the life of the teacher, to the life of the administrator. And how am I improving that, right? Tech is supposed to change that, create impact on a daily level. So we actually focused on the real pain points that technology is going to solve in school education. For example, personalized and adaptive learning, right? AI tutors is going to really help teachers today, because teachers do standardized teaching. They are teaching the same thing to every student, even if the students are behind. Some are 5 grade levels behind, some are 2 grade levels behind. So AI tutors can come and become a teaching assistant, almost like a co-pilot, right? For a teacher. Introducing standardized assessments, creating scales of context will actually bring real life AI tutoring, and that's happening today at scale of millions, right? Not just AI tutoring, AI doubt clearance, AI assessments, AI evaluation, just about everything, right? So it's actually how do we blend in, right?
True. Because that also gives us, Pankaj, in a way, a direction to what are our learnings to ensure this transition becomes seamless, and we also maximize the potential of what this technology has to offer. And if we talk about one of the roadblocks that has actually become a part of national discourse as well, has been, yes, we're giving the education, but how ready are we in terms of skills? We have one of the largest graduate populations, but are they skill ready? The education that is being provided, are they making them ready to enter the market? While the national discourse is changing with a lot of policies coming in, do you still feel that gap still exists, and how can in fact that be covered up as we move forward?
If you see, India is looking at becoming a Viksit Bharat by 2047. And one of the key imperatives to realize the vision of Viksit Bharat is the future workforce, or the future digital workforce. And I think, let me talk about, as part of our commitment, that is AWS commitment to bridge the technology skills gap and grow the cloud and the AI skills. AWS has already trained more than 5.9 million people in India since 2017. And we've recently also launched a program called AI Ready, where we're looking at training more than 2 million people by 2025. Now, if you see in India, anybody with an internet connection and a desire to learn can access a lot of these courses which are completely free of cost. So again, that is the kind of reach we are talking about. Now looking at the work that government is doing, we all heard about India Skill Mission, under which government is looking at skilling, upskilling, reskilling more than 800 million people of India.
Correct.
And the moment we are talking about skilling, NSDC is at the forefront of making that happen. We worked with them to migrate a lot of their core systems, skill development management system, or their 150,000 accreditation centers. But one thing that we realized working with them, they were looking at building a DPI called SIDH, Skill India Digital Hub. Again, which is like one-stop unified portal where learners can take live classes, digital trainings, online assessments, and again from the convenience, which is really enabling lifelong learning or continuous skill development from them.
Yeah.
And if you see with that, what is happening is the moment you're building the bridge from education to skilling, to employment, and to entrepreneurship. That's the kind of chain we are talking about. And now again, taking it one step forward, again as AWS, we have a program called Skills to Job Tech Alliance. Under that, what we do is we connect the employers on one side, institutions on the other side, and the government organizations on the third side, so that now, how do you know that students, they are being taught the right industry skilled courses. They know what the industry needs from them. So accordingly, we have to kind of go work with them, realign their curriculum. So those are the kind of things that we are trying to work with the government at the policy level and at the institute level.
Pankaj, but help me understand some of the best practices that you've seen, whether in globally, whether in India, which could be around cloud-powered analytics to really guide the education policy going forward, because I think that could become a step forward for us as we move ahead from this conversation, because we want this to also be a learning step for those who are watching it.
So when we started the conversation, I spoke about India's approach to building these DPIs, digital public infrastructure. And if you see, the way we are approaching as India is building these open digital ecosystems. And the main ingredients of building these open digital ecosystems, it starts with building a registry. Now in the case of to give you an example of healthcare, what they did with UHI, Unified Health Interface, it started with giving every patient an health ID, every doctor an ID, every pharmacy an ID, even every hospital an ID, taking it to the same level. Now in the case of the two key government schemes is called NDEAR, National Digital Education Architecture, and the second thing is APAR, Automated Permanent Academic Account Registry. Under that, government is building a motion called One Nation, One Student ID card. That means every student will have one national registration or one national ID. Using that, now today I move from one school to the other, one college to the other, or maybe throughout my lifelong learning, I will be able to have a track of my credits. So it starts with the registration. Then on top of that, a lot of student records are there. So it's a federation of those records. And then after that, it is a consent management framework. So building on those same lines, talking about the architecture. Now, one such national platform that has had a huge impact on the education in India is the Samarth e-governance platform. It's an e-governance platform for all the higher education institutes in India. It has more than 40 plus software modules covering admissions, academics, accountings, assessments, and has more than 13,000 already higher education institutes enrolled into that with more than 20 million student records. And government has a vision to take it to 20,000 more higher education institutes. So that is the kind of work where we are building. And if you see, while these numbers are great, the real impact of Samarth lies in its ability to free the bandwidth of students and teachers from all the administrative tasks and making it more like an open and kind of an outcome-based model. So that is what we are thinking for India.
So disruption, integration, and then eventually transformation. Unfortunately, we've completely run out of time, but it's been such a pleasure chatting with each one of you. Pankaj, Apurva, Jairaj, thank you so much for those insights and being extremely honest and candid with our viewers as well. What a truly insightful conversation we've had today. We've seen how technology is no longer just supporting education, but it is transforming it. A heartfelt thank you once again to our distinguished speakers for sharing their powerful perspectives with each one of us. And of course, to our lovely viewers, thank you for always keeping the faith in us, and thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.
CNBC TV 18 presents Transforming a Billion Lives, Season 2, presented by AWS.